You're going to hear my conversation on stage at the Trapital Summit with the CEO of Atlantic Music Group, Elliot Grainge. This talk was several months in the making. It was Elliot's first public talk since taking over as CEO of Atlantic Music Group in late 2024, and I knew that Trapital was the perfect place to have that conversation, and there were three big things that I wanted to get out of the conversation that I thought the audience would appreciate as well. The first is the transition that brought Elliot into Atlantic Music Group. This is a pretty big deal in the industry, not only because of Elliot, but because of who left as a result. Julie Greenwald, who had led Atlantic for years, was now out. Craig Kalman had moved into a different position, and Max Lusada, who oversaw recorded music for all of Warner Music Group, had now left as well. It was a pretty big transition for Warner Music Group, but it clearly showed that there was a direction that they wanted to go in with Elliot. So I wanted to talk about what that looks like and what specifically he plans to do differently as opposed to those that were running the label before him. Second, you'll hear us discuss his experience selling his company 10K Projects. This is his baby, and of course from the outside this is a successful exit, but anyone that's been involved with M&A or selling businesses understand that this is a very emotional decision that can have a lot of mixed feelings, so I really wanted to get into that from a founder perspective, since Elliot is still running 10K Projects today, but under the umbrella of a major record label. And then third, we had to discuss how does that 10K Projects playbook adapt? It worked well for Ice Spice, it worked well for Trippie Redd, but how do you tweak the model so that it can still work for Bruno Mars, Ed Sheeran, Cardi B, and those type of artists at Atlantic Music Group? It was a really fun conversation, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Here's my talk with Elliot Grainge. I would like to introduce the CEO of Atlantic Music Group, Elliot Grainge. I wasn't sure if you were going to come out to this song or a song from the new Prince of Pop at Atlantic Music Group, Hilary Duff.
Yes, that's exciting. That's very exciting.
Very cool.
Comeback.
Especially for the millennials that grew up watching Hilary Duff and all the Disney shows.
She's amazing. She's incredibly talented as well. But we're very excited about Hilary. We're very excited. But this is my song of the summer, Reverend. It's my personal song of the summer.
Good choice. Good choice.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. I appreciate making the time. And to start things off, and as you know, this is your first public talk that you've done since becoming CEO of Atlantic Music Group. So
with you.
It's an honor. It's an honor that you chose to show this.
It's an honor to be here with you. Thanks for having me.
Let's go back. Let's go back to August 1st, 2024, because there were some big announcements that went out that day. A lot of people in this room probably saw the press release. Big moves happening at Atlantic Music and Warner Music Group. Elliot Grainge is now the CEO of Atlantic Music Group, and two of the legends, Max Lusada, Julie Greenwald, no longer in the business. And once that announcement went out, there was a lot of discussion, and people had a lot to say about that. Were you surprised by any of that?
No, not really. When you say you expected the
response to the announcement and
brilliant,
the commentary afterward.
Brilliant executives. They've done some incredible things. They're going to continue doing other incredible things. I wasn't surprised about the fanfare and the surprise around the announcement. But they're formidable, brilliant executives. For me, I was very excited to start and very excited to lead with my team, the most historic, greatest, I think Atlantic's the best record label of all time, the most historic, storied label, personally. So it was very exciting.
I know that a lot of the fanfare, as you put it, was more put around who you are, your age, last name, a lot of things that capture headlines, but something that didn't get talked about as much was the fact that you were a founder of a company in 10K Projects that you had started yourself. You seemed very happy continuing to run that business as a founder. Someone else then acquires that company, and not only do you continue to run that, you are then put into a new role itself. And for anyone that has ever sold a business, sure, outside exits all get celebrated, but there's still a lot of mixed emotions that founders have in that situation. So what was that like for you?
It's a good question. I've got to really think about it. So when you're selling a company, it's your baby, So finding the right home for it was, there's two parts of my brain. There's the emotional side. I want this thing to be taken care of, which I'm very fortunate because we moved it into the Atlantic group. And then it's got to make sense for the artists as well. So as an independent label, we distributed through Caroline. Our first distribution deal was with Jacqueline Saturn. It was a very good place for the artists, and it continues to be a great place for other artists. For where we were going as a team and for the artists that we were with, we were looking at exploring alternative options. So it had to make sense for the artists that we were with, and we had great success during and right after we had done that deal, and continue to have great success afterwards. So it's got to be artist first. For me personally, and for our team and the additional leaders of the company, we wouldn't have exited or partially exited that company if we didn't know, A, that the parent company was a true great custodian of the artist and of the art, which is Warner Music Group, and that we could also still have a say in the day-to-day operations of the company, which we've been very fortunate to keep.
And I'm sure that having a say and just being able to have strong influence was key, because I know back when 10K was your sole job, you've spoken about your impression of major record labels as being slower operations, clunkier, as an alternative to how you were running things at 10K. So now that you've been there for a year now, what is your read? How do you feel about how major record labels run?
I don't know who that person was. I don't know what he was talking about. That guy's crazy. Look, when you're from the outside looking in, it's very, you can make very quick, you can be very quick to judge. I think being on the inside of the major label side, there are certain levers that executives can pull that you're just not able to on the outside. I'm not saying that that's good or bad. Can't speak for my team, but I will. We just love working with artists. So for us, if you give a bunch of people that love working with artists some additional levers to pull on their careers, ultimately I think that's a good thing. Now, there are some great things that we were able to do as an independent, and I think bringing some of those things into the major label sequence, having two nukes essentially next to each other, I think that's really where our superpower is and is becoming with through Atlantic. It's got the scrappiness of the indie, but the power and the might of the major.
What's an example of one of those things that you brought from 10K that is now in place at Atlantic?
There's so many examples. I think Alex Warren's a very clean example of an artist that had been building a great fan base prior to us getting there. When we sort of came in and we looked at the artists, there were a few that stuck out that, well, hey, why aren't these streaming more? Why aren't they bigger? Why aren't they selling more tickets? What's the story here? And I think with a big company, a huge roster, not everyone can have the attention that they deserve. So we kind of came in with a fresh pair of eyes and said, look, there are several artists here that we think should probably be bigger. Alex was one of those artists. And I think what we were able to do is we were able to marry the scrappiness of our sort of indie roots through leveraging our influencer marketing department that we had built and cultivated through 10K into the Atlantic system, and couple that and marry that with traditional radio and all of the other incredible global we talk about levers that the majors have. And 1-on-1 equaled 10 for Alex, and for one of the songs in particular, Ordinary, it's been, I think it's almost 13 weeks at top 4, 13 weeks number 1 at radio. I think it's the biggest selling single of 2025. that gave us great confidence. There is a formula here that others don't have, that we have, that we can continue building on. But I think Alex was probably one of the first.
Because it seems like for you all, especially in the past year, it's been a mix of artists like Alex that, not that he was new necessarily, but this is the biggest hit that he was, and I think a lot of people knew him that didn't know him before. But a lot of your success in the past year has also come from artists that have been on the label for a minute, but are pushing more, whether it's Bruno Mars, his collaboration with Lady Gaga, and who knows, maybe some of this was in place already. But it does feel like there has been some momentum there since you all had came in.
I think the Rosie record that Bruno collaborated with her on, I think that reminded people how incredible Bruno Mars is. I mean, you don't have to, no one needs any reminder to that, but he's very selective with when and how he puts music out. And so when he does put a song, or when he features on a song, it gets so much eyeballs, and it was such a massive global success, that song, that you could see the weeks, months after the release of that, and as that song Apate became bigger, his catalogue was littered within the top 50 global charts.
Is there anything you're doing differently then, from a marketing perspective there? Because at least on the 10K side, a lot of your marketing work was, okay, the world doesn't know about this artist, we have to make this artist the thing. Here you have this artist that already had 24 Karat Magic, Uptown Funk, all this stuff. What does that look like, and how do you go about that for someone like him?
There are moments that artists have that really pierce through the zeitgeist. They become pop cultural moments. We saw that last year. We see that all the time with Taylor Swift. We felt that with Chappell Roan and with Sabrina. I think we're feeling that with Bruno. I think we're the best of the business at it. Atlantic, our team. We're very good at reading that, understanding where it's coming from and why, and pouring gas on it. So how we do it, quite nuanced, quite technical, but on a macro, to answer your question, in real time we're able to spend wisely to talk to that audience. We're able to identify why these moments are happening. But Bruno's he's such a genius. There's something very mysterious about him, even though we know who he is. There's a mystery to him. This isn't the first or the last time we're going to feel that with Bruno Mars.
And you talked a bit with that, just with how you think about priorities, and I've read you talk about how you think about focusing on 3 key things for Atlantic specifically. You want to partner with great artists, you want to offer them creative freedom, and you want to help them build fan bases. I'm curious, because this is clearly a declaration of where Atlantic is moving forward, was there anything that was a priority before in the business that you've shifted since to make room for these priorities?
No. I think as a record label, we have brands. There are half a dozen very important, iconic brands in music, and when their names come up or when their logos come up, it makes you feel a certain way. I can remember an Atlantic logo in a vinyl store on Bleecker Street in New York when I was first time I'd ever been to New York, and I could still smell the lyric sheets on and I remember where I was. So I think there's a very emotive connection to the record label. Running one, you have the responsibility of treating each artist very independently. So I couldn't say there was any more excitement from, to your words, an artist that may have felt like an older priority versus a newer priority. There's difference in urgency. I'm a huge Pete Wentz Fall Out Boy fan. It'd be great to get another album with them. I don't know if that's going to ever be a thing. Hopefully it is. Hopefully, who knows? But it's not as urgent as a Cardi B releases or as a Turnstile releases. So just managing that, but the respect that we have as a team as human beings, not just a sign on the door or a sort of a name text in the PC line on Spotify. As human beings, we have a responsibility to prioritize everyone.
Part of this too is we talked a bit about marketing and just making sure the label's in the best position to do that. I've heard you talk about this label influencer opportunity, and this is something that we've seen Warner Music Group has invested money in specifically to help with this, and that of course is helping to break records, create moments, a lot of the same things that we've talked about throughout the day. But what does that look like on your end, that label influencer opportunity?
I think we saw the power. It was happening. Our team were very early on the power of influencer marketing before the pandemic, and then the pandemic hit, and we saw TikTok explode, and we saw these influencers post a dancing clip or a fan edit to a song in the background, and then we saw the daily streams that week compound and go to the moon. So I think that triggered something in the smart. All of us are here pretty intelligent, and we all saw, well, there's something there. That's good. You can see real-time ROI on influencers posting songs. So that's the context of what influencer marketing is and the importance of it. We have and we continue to invest. I can't say that we've cornered the market, because I wouldn't say that. But I think Atlantic and all of our artists have, I would say, an industry-leading edge on that type of marketing for artists in the business. I think there's no question there.
Another big topic, probably of the three themes we've had today, a big one is AI. This is a topic that you've spoken about a few times before, and from a high level, it's the desire to have your music, the Atlantic music that comes through, to be not just received by the market, but also earn meaningful revenue, whether it's compared to not just AI music, but functional music, but things that maybe aren't, in your views, the premium label quality music that you're putting out there. So with that, I'm curious, I think a lot of those takes have been, understandably defensive. You want to protect the rights, but is there anything on the pro side? Is there anything where you see opportunities or enhancements for what AI can do for your artist, for the business that you're running?
Everyone has a very intelligent opinion about AI in the music industry. So there's two things where my brain goes. One is on the near term, which is, to your point, how can producers and songwriters and artists use tools through AI tools to help better their craft in the form of either vocal producing or mixing, engineering, songwriting. That's great. That can help. In the near term, I think that will promote creativity. Then there's the deeper question of AI agents that are using content that they're training on. That's a whole another conversation. Now, where my long-term brain goes is, we're in this room. I really can't see, but there's probably boomers, Gen Xers, millennials, Gen Z, maybe some Gen Alpha. Now, long-term, Gen Beta, maybe they're born, well, they're 1 or 2 years old now. If we're using ChatGPT right now, and it's slowly starting to become a way of our life. So I think within music, how will Gen Alpha and Gen Beta, how will their relationship with art and artists be different to these generations that have grown up understanding the importance of artistic integrity and real energy and real people making real music and their art form? Because it's very important to everyone in this room. That's why I'm in the business. So long term is, how will the future generations, what will their relationship be like as they've become so accustomed to artificial, maybe even augmented reality? Will they want to connect? Will they be able to connect with Taylor or Bruno Mars the same way how our generations do, or Aretha or Led Zeppelin? Or will they connect the same way to an AI bot? So that's where my brain goes. Probably, hopefully, I won't be worrying about it, or there'll be answers that will be made for us. But that's sort of long term where my brain goes.
I mean, in a full circle Trapital Summit theme, Troy Carter was on the same stage last year and talked about synthetic artists and people developing relationships with synthetic artists. And you're saying something similar with just, not necessarily a true prediction, but just where things could be going.
So I think today they're kind of gimmicks. I find it very difficult, and I have yet to see a strong listening community fall in love and break a synthetic artist, or knowingly break a synthetic artist. I still think that humans of our generation, how our palette for music, we have to connect with an individual or a group of individuals. Synthetic music, I think, it's interesting. It's a gimmick. We were all pretty interested with NFTs 4 or 5 years ago. In the future, as long as we as an industry stick together and we protect artists' rights, and artists, copyright holders, they're able to play a part in the foundations of what AI will do for the artistic community, and for making sure that artists, as we said, and publishers and songwriters, producers are fairly compensated. On the near term, that's important. On the long term, we got bigger things to worry about.
Indeed. I'm sure you and I could continue this conversation, but we'll likely pause there. And with that, your first public talk since being in this role. Ladies and gentlemen, Elliot Grainge. Thank you.